Andy XL back again on 21st of August with the fourth of my NFXL podcast, looking at the state of each division in the NFL ahead of the 2025 season. So, having looked at three divisions, I've basically picked out the Buffalo Bills to retain their division title, the Houston Texans to retain theirs, and over in the NFC, the Tampa Bay Bucks to defend their title in the South. Added to that in the AFC, I'm tipping the New England Patriots to make the postseason. So that's four of the 14 postseason spots allocated according to my previews, and three of them in the AFC. And I'm going to look at another AFC division now in the AFC North. So there's only five places left, two division winners, and three more and some wild cards. So what we're going to look at here in the AFC North. Well, let's look at the history of what's happened in this division recently. So the division features three really good teams and one complete disaster of a franchise. They unfortunately being the Cleveland Browns, and it's likely to be a tough division again to win in 2025, albeit in effect being a three-team divisions as the Brown tries to find a way out of the quagmire that they have put themselves in. In the last 10 seasons, the Ravens have four divisional titles in the North. The Steelers and Bengals have three each. That shows how competitive a division this is for those three teams at least. I don't enjoy picking on the Browns. It's just there for all to see. This has to be the worst run franchise in the league. Outside of finding the odd oasis in the the odd oasis in a desert of disaster, the Browns have had seven or fewer wins in 16 of the last 20 seasons. I'll say that again. The Browns have had seven wins or fewer in 16 of the last 20 seasons. And in a league that encourages parity and gives bad teams every chance to turn things around, that is a truly horrific history for the long suffering Cleveland fans to endure. That said, let's now look at the teams in this division and how they might fare this season. Start with the Baltimore Ravens. Um, Free agent wise, coming into the off season, Ronnie Stanley, Patrick McCarry, Brandon Stevens, and Malik Harrison were the four most notable free agents they had to deal with. And so the needs list was actually one of the shorter ones in the league. And re-signing Stanley was a great move, taking offensive tackle off that short needer list for starters. So, they're in a good position. They won the division last year. They look good again. Defensively, they were superb once Carl Hamilton moved to safety and sorting out that pass defense halfway through last season. The injury to Darius Washington was not what they wanted, though. So that brings first round pick Malachi Stark's addition at safety into clear focus and makes that even more important now for him to get off to a quick start. Chidobe Awuzie and or Jaire Alexander replaced Brandon Stevens at quarterback. But a replacement for Malik Harrison at inside linebacker was needed. So fourth round pick Teddy Buckingham helps in that regard, but not sure it's a replacement. Um, as does Mike Green as their second round edge rusher to eventually replace Carl Van Noy, who is now 33. Van Noy will be good to go for the start of this season, and as the season progresses, hopefully Green comes to more prominence from the Ravens' point of view. Outside of that, they needed to replace Macari at guard, but they haven't done so. So that has to be a concern. DeAndre Hopkins may be a good addition at wide receiver. There are some good veteran presence as a second stroke third wide receiver there. Um, Overall, though, the injury to Washington at safety and the slight concerns at inside linebacker and guard aside, they will be the team to beat in this division again next season, and I'm actually tipping them to be another team that retains their divisional title, and they should be capable of mounting another serious challenge to win it all come the postseason. So good news for the Ravens. Next, the Steelers, who finished second in this division last year. A long list of notable free agents for them coming into the off-season. Russell Wilson, Najee Harris, Justin Fields, offensive talent there. James Daniels at guard, Dan Moore at offensive tackle, Dante Jackson at cornerback, Cameron Sutton at cornerback, Mike Williams at wide receiver, and Landon Roberts at inside linebacker. So the Steelers had a number of free agents and they opted to let all nine of those move on. So it's going to be huge changes in Pittsburgh ahead of the coming season. The obvious questions for the Steelers was a quarterback, and they were the inverted commas winners in the annual Aaron Rodgers waiting game. I personally would not have moved for Rodgers, who for me is a mere shadow of his former self, even when healthy. I've gone into that in previous pieces. I just don't think a team's going to succeed with Rodgers at quarterback, whether it's the Steelers or anybody else. So I just don't see that as a good move. Um, Najee Harris was allowed to seek a fifth consecutive 1,000-yard season with the Chargers. He did nothing wrong for Pittsburgh, but they've decided to move on. They've drafted Caleb Johnson to partner Jalen Warren at right running back. For me, that's certainly in the short term going to make them weaker at running back. The Mike Williams move did not work, so DK Metcalf is the new wide receiver one, and especially now George Pickens is now in Dallas. Robert Woods is a downgrade, and that certainly got to be questionable whether he's going to be any much better than Mike Williams. So wide receiver, I'm still not sold there either. Um, Continuing the negative outlook for the Steelers, James Daniels and Dan Moore have gone from their O line and not been replaced by the draft. So whilst replacing Dante Jackson and Cam Sutton in the secondary, they brought in four players there: Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, Brandon Eccles, and Juan Thornhill. So plenty of good news in the secondary potentially, but other areas still gone unlooked at. So I'll have a quick sip of coffee. If the Steelers were to contend for this division title next season, pass offense needed to improve significantly. And for me, with the aging Rodgers at quarterback and without Pickens, that's not going to happen. And the lack of attention given to the O line must be a massive concern. Any team that wins this division will be a big threat to all in the postseason. But with Pickens' departure and the fact I'm a Rodgers skeptic, especially behind a dubious O line, make me believe the Steelers are going to struggle to even make the postseason. I actually see them missing the postseason completely for the first time in a while. So I'm not. I'm very dubious about the Steelers going into this season. I think they're going to be one of the teams that are really going to struggle more than people expect. So that brings us on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Free agents for them: T. Higgins, well, they gave him the franchise tag. Mike Hilton has gone. BJ Hill's been re-signed, as has Mike Gesicki and Cody Ford at guard. Trent Brown's gone from offensive tackle to Houston, and Von Bell has gone from the safety area for the Bengals. So the Bengals had the best passing offense in the league last season, but despite the noble efforts of Chase Brown, the rush offense was ranked towards the bottom of the league. So bear that in mind when we come to look at the Bengals. With T. Higgins and Mike Gesicki back, the pass offense should remain one of the very best in the league, if not the best. With Joe Burrow at quarterback as well, fantastic. Um, I do like Chase Brown, but the Bengals needed to add some help for him at running back if they were to address that area of weakness. And adding Samaje Perine and a sixth-round draft pick in Taj Brooks doesn't look like that fills that need for me. So there's still that area of concern there. For the Bengals, nothing changed from last season. Fantastic on the pass side, not so strong on the rush. Um, but the fundamental issues for the Bengals remain on the defensive side of the roster. As I said, BJ Hill is back, but Mike Hilton and Von Bell are not and have not been replaced. Finally, outside of the excellent Trey Hendrickson, who trade talk has swirled about all off-season, the Bengals had little to offer as a pass rushing unit. So the fact they've added a potential long-term partner for Hendrickson in the shape of Shamar Stewart was a good move. Shamar Stewart's all about promise, but hasn't delivered in college, so he needs to deliver now on the biggest stage. They have also added an inside linebacker with Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter, so they should be good moves for them. But As I said, the O-line, rush offense, and secondary remain the areas of concern for the Bengals. So we're potentially looking at a very similar outlook to what we've looked at with previous years for the Bengals. And those issues could prevent them from catching the Ravens in the race to win this division and make them a borderline postseason qualifying team for me. They could get in, they might not. If they get in, they're a danger on any given day, given how dynamic that pass offense is. But if you shut that down or limit it, any team can pretty much beat them come the postseason. So there you go. Cleveland Browns. Right, here we go. The long-suffering Browns. I really do feel for the fans, but whew, what a mess this is. Um, so free agents, they had Jedrick Wills, sorry, offensive tackle, not been re-signed. Nick Chubb's time has come and gone. He's now in Houston. Elijah Moore is wide receiver, has gone to Buffalo. They've let Jameis Winston go to the Giants from quarterback, and offensive tackle James Hudson is also now a Giant. Um, Looking at stats from last season, the Browns ranked towards the bottom of the league for rushing offense and defense, and also for pass defense, and were mid-ranked against the run. So there's no good news there at all. Mid-ranked against the run is the best that you can clutch out there. But this team just had an endless list of issues to deal with this postseason, starting with effectively a lame duck, literally a lame duck quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Um, until they find a way to move on from that Watson situation in terms of his play, his effect on the rest of the team, which, if he's not around, hopefully that sort of locker room atmosphere could improve. But the huge burden of his salary needs to be dealt with, and they're just biding time really until they can get past that. And until they do that, they're going to continue to prop up this division. Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco are their veteran QB options, and now they have rookies Dylan Gabriel and another Watson-like sideshow has arrived in the shape of Shedeur Sanders, making a four-way fight at starting quarterback, which Flacco has initially won, as recently announced. Um, Sanders had certainly fallen too far to be ignored in this year's draft. But all this hullabaloo around him, is that what Cleveland needed right now? And some stability would be nice, would it not? Rather than another potential distraction. So, not anything personal on Sanders there. They took him at a good position, but with him comes all that, distraction potentially. So that needs to be really well managed, and that's not been a strength of the Browns. Let's be honest, managing that sort of situation. Nick Chubb's injury and lack of production has ended his time with the Browns. So they've brought in Quinshon Judkins um, there, but he's now got potential issues. So they might not be seeing much of him as particularly early in the season. So they're going to have to lean on Jerome Ford and potentially fourth rounder Dylan Sampson to keep the running game going. But there's not particularly good news there with Judkins. You draft somebody and then that happens. It was kind of typical Browns, if you like, unfortunate, whatever you want to call it. In regard to the second overall pick that they had, prior to the draft, I posed this question: do they find an answer to the quarterback problem with that pick, or trade it away to get collateral to rebuild for the long term? And I suggested they must do one or the other. If they didn't like the quarterback options available, trade the pick away and get ammunition to get multiple quality additions in. They did the latter, and that allowed them to take Mason Graham at defensive tackle, having traded back a few spots. So I really like that move in the draft. Mason Graham is one of the very best players to come out of this draft. So that's good news for the Browns. There is some, but they did not get the offensive tackle they needed to address that need via the draft, and no edge rusher or wide receiver were added earlier either. So, whilst they've added some nice young talent to the roster, it's not in their main areas of the need. And next season will almost certainly see them finish bottom of this division again and add to those seasons of 7 or fewer wins. But if they can muster up 6 wins from an improved roster, that would give them some hope beyond 2025 when they can start moving on from Deshaun Watson, hopefully find a quarterback in from some route or other. Maybe it's in next year's draft, which could be a good draft to be looking for a quarterback. Incidentally, I'll start looking at the 2026 NFL draft before as this college season gets underway. Um, I won't be shy about saying I see myself as definitely the top draft analyst in the UK, if not a match for anybody out there. Daniel Jeremiah's, all of that lot. You know, over the past 3 or 4 years, my draft predictions have been as accurate as anybody. So if you want to know about what's going to happen in the 2026 draft and who to look for, stay tuned because I'll be back with that probably early September. Quick sip of coffee again because the one thing about me is my throat packs up. I won't go into the history of that, but nothing serious that's going to hurt me going forwards, but it does affect my voice. So just 1 second. So let's have a sum up then. The Ravens and Bengals have the solidity across their rosters to contest for the divisional title next season, and the Ravens are the team that are capable of achieving more than that. I see them as one of the main challenges again for Super Bowl glory this year. Can they get over the hump? Surely it's got to happen at some point. Keep knocking on the door, eventually it's going to open. The Bengals still have weaknesses that are likely to cost them, as specified earlier, and the Steelers look weak offensively, especially in the pass game. You know, I'm sure I'm going to get loads of people say, but they've got Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf. Yeah, let's wait and see. I don't think it's going to make the postseason for them. I'm saying that now. So if I get that wrong, feel free and come and tell me. But I don't think I will be wrong. So I see them missing out on the postseason. The Browns will just look to improve on their 3 wins of last season. Anything better than that is at least heading in the right direction. They almost literally can't get much worse. So get more than 3 wins. If you get to 6, brilliant, and you're another year near escaping that Deshaun Watson sized mess that you're in. So Baltimore contended to win it all. Cincinnati contended to make the postseason and potentially be a threat to teams once they get there. Pittsburgh going to miss the postseason as far as I'm concerned, and Cleveland just looking to improve on last season, and they probably will, but not a lot. So that's how I see the AFC North. 4 divisions down, 3 of the AFC means there's four to come. Let's have a look at who I'm going to schedule up next to look at which division. Well, the next one I'm going to have a look at. Sorry, I need to catch because I'm doing these in order of how bad they were or how good they were last season. So we're reaching the midway. Next up, I'm going to switch over, stay in the North, but go to the NFC, which was a really good division last year. But so we'll have a look at that next up. So Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay in particular, and Chicago made some good moves this off season. What does the season hold for them? That will be the subject of my next piece. But that wraps up this one. So no doubt that has stimulated some debate, hopefully. And I'll be back with my next divisional preview in the next day or so. Bye now.